Hi, everybody. Good morning. No, I'm sorry. Afternoon. Afternoon. I got that wrong. Oh, that's so sad. I hate to see it. I'm waiting for people to trickle in, stalling as best I can. My name is Josh Long. I work on the spring team. It is so great to be here with you all today. I checked on the old profile thing. It says I haven't been here since 2018. Whoa, that's a long time. I was told also to tell the nice people online that should you have questions, when ineluctably you have questions, please type them in, but I'll answer them at the end. And I'm also told I need to prioritize those who are online, because whereas the rest of you can chase me outside, these kind folks online can't. So I need to make sure I answer those questions, and then all of your questions in that order. So and that's a problem, because I leave people with a lot of questions usually, so that's not good. Okay, my name is Josh Long. I work on the spring team. I've got a little YouTube channel. How many of you are using YouTube? YouTube. Okay, good. Join me on this the channel there, Coffee Software. Like and subscribe. Join the adventure. It's not the worst mistake that you will make this year, okay? I have a LinkedIn. I'm very online. People say that about me. He's very online. The code for what we're going to do today will be here on this GitHub. There's nothing there at the moment. Oh, look at that. Fixed. See, there's nothing there. I haven't even created the repository yet. So these things are easy to change now because they're just hypotheticals. And my friend James Ward and I are writing a book. Don't ask us how far along we are. It's a highly guarded secret, but we're working on it, okay? And it's called Bootiful Spring AI. I'm not sure how to, there you go. And you can go find more about it at bootifulspringai.com. My friends, look, I wanted to talk to you about the latest and greatest in the wide world of AI. And I believe that we, in the Java and the Spring and the JVM community writ large, are in an amazing place. How many of you saw this MIT study from last year? This MIT study, oh, the internet is just unusable these days. Look at that. I was staring at you. There was a headline and a picture when I looked at you. I looked back, there's like 3 different pop-ups and ads and, okay, anyway. Nope. Go away. Okay. 95% of Gen AI projects fail. That's not great, right? There's an MIT, you can find the MIT study as well. It's by MIT. MIT finds that 95% of Gen AI projects fail because companies avoid friction. Basically, those that succeed integrate deeply and ship tools with memory and learning loops, right? They embed Gen AI into high-value workflows. This makes a lot of sense if you think about it, right? Where's most of the business logic that drives the enterprise forward these days written? On the JVM, in Spring, right? Of course, that's where years and years of institutional knowledge has been built up and crafted and specified and made more precise over many, many years by many, many people. You think you're going to be able to build a Python-based AI bot over here and completely abandon all that knowledge, right? All that integration? It's not going to work. Of course these fail. Of course they fail. And there's no reason to build them like that, right? We, as I'm hoping I'll make clear today in our brief time together, we have not just as good, but we have better options for generative AI-based applications and integrations than they have in the Python community. We're not just in as good a place, we are in a better place, right? We have an amazing opportunity here. We are the custodians, the guardians of the business logic that impels businesses forward. We have the ability to build these high-value integrations and workflows, right, to leverage that. And we have superior technologies with which to do it. There's no reason this can't be our moment, you know? And I'm not an AI absolutist. I'm not one of those people that thinks it's perfect in every scenario, but there are some really interesting opportunities, perfect opportunities for integration. So let's take advantage of that. Let's start, as always, at my second favorite place, start.spring.io, not that, whatever. Start.spring.io, of course, second favorite place on the internet. First favorite place being production. I love production. You should love production. You should go as early and often as possible. Bring the kids, bring the family. The weather's amazing. It's the happiest place on earth. It's better than Disneyland. But if you've never been to production, you can begin your journey here at start.spring.io. And we're going to build a new application. And what are we going to build an application for? Well, I want to support, it's good to have a context, right? And you've probably all seen the Spring Pet Clinic, right? This is a sample application written in yesteryear that demonstrates a bunch of different concepts. And it's become quite a popular domain, so popular, in fact, that There's now even a GitHub organization with different pet clinics, whatever. Yeah, there's different implementations in terms of different technologies, and we don't have nearly enough time to go through all of that. But I do like the domain. I love animals. I love dogs. I love cats, Who doesn't? And it reminds me of my favorite animal, my favorite dog, a dog about which I learned during the pandemic named Prancer. Prancer's owner was trying to find a new home for Prancer. And she wrote this hysterical ad. She says, okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption and make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired, and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape he has created in our home. So I won't read the whole thing for you. You should definitely find it out and just read it for yourself. It's amazing, okay? Like, we already addressed the men and children situation. If you have people over, he would have to be put away like he's a vacuum, right? So I think about this dog a lot. And by the way, she signs off. She says, oh, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. So take that into account if you're interested, right? It sounds like a spicy dog, right? And by the way, very cute dog. I would totally pet this dog. I would lose a finger, but I would pet this dog. And if you're wondering, this dog was adopted. Here's People Magazine talking about Prancer, right? Here's USA Today, a publication in the United States talking about Prancer, right? Here is BuzzFeed News. Oh my goodness, go away. We caught up with Prancer, the viral nightmare Chihuahua, right? We found a story of redemption. By the way, this is written well before AI slop gave us the ability to write these kind of headlines. And here's New York Times talking about Prancer. So he did get adopted, but what about the rest of the world? How are they going to find the dog of their nightmares or, dreams, right? So we're going to support that by building an assistant to help with that. Okay? And we have some choices we need to make, first and foremost of which, what version of Java? Friends, we have 4 radio boxes here, but only 2 valid choices. You see, these other 2 choices we keep just to see who makes terrible life decisions, okay? You should never, ever select these boxes ever in any context whatsoever, except to show, unironically, what never to select, okay? So we either the long-term version or the current version, either one is fine, but I prefer either one of those 2 on the left, never on the right, okay? I'm going to be using Java 25, and later is LTE. Java 25 brought one of my favorite features ever. Watch this, okay? I'm going to go here. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to just type in a little program here. Okay. And I'm escaping Vim first try. Okay, that's impressive. People will tell. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There's an Olympic sport for that, So I'm going to run this. Not going to compile it. I'm just going to pass it to Java like so. I ran it without compiling it, like a script. Do you know what you just saw? Do you know what you just saw? You just saw, for the very first time ever, a good JavaScript. Okay? It's been a long time that we've waited for this. It's never happened before. But we just did that. Okay? So this is the good kind of JavaScript. So Java 25 and later, a great choice, a great, very concise, nice place to write your programs. Or Kotlin, or Groovy, whatever. There's lots of great languages on the JVM. Okay? Now, we need to make a choice about what model we want to use. I'm going to use Amazon's Bedrock. It doesn't matter which one you use. Spring AI supports more than a dozen different models. Okay? Very popular here in Europe is something like Ollama. You can run that on your local machine, air-gapped, offline, and you pay nobody, right? Unless you get to like Google scale or something, There's for certain models, there's an asterisk, which is like, oh, it's open until you have billions of users, in which case that's a great problem to have, okay? But Ollama is really, really good. And it's just, like I said, you don't have to, privacy concerns and all that, you can solve that with Ollama. Docker can also be used to run models. There's lots of ways to run models, okay? I'm going to be using Bedrock, though, because I don't want to run, I've got a new, one of those new MacBook M5 Maxes, right? Got 128 gigs of RAM, which is enough to run Chrome end list, right? I can run Chrome with many tabs now, right? But Chrome and an AI model, I don't want to push my luck, okay? So I'm going to be using this Converse, which is a LLM chat model from Amazon. I'm going to be using Bedrock here as well, Bedrock as an embedding model. I'll use the web support. I'm going to be using, I need a database. I'm going to be using Postgres, but I want a database with a vector store. So actually, I'll be using PG Vector, right? PG Vector in turn brings in Postgres, so really that's a 2-for-1. A vector store is a data structure optimized for semantic similarity search, okay? You use it a lot in AI integrations. There are many different vector stores, more than 20 supported by Spring AI. I'm just using this one, and I get 2-for-1. I get my SQL database, and in the same host and port, the same service, I get my vector database. But these are not always the same thing, right? And vector stores, my goodness, there's like dozens of them, like I said, and a lot of them you probably already have deployed. MongoDB, Elasticsearch, Gemfire, Postgres, Redis, etc. Right? These are Milvus, Neo4j rather. Milvus and Weaviate and Chroma and some of these other ones are purpose-built vector stores. But you probably already have one deployed, right? So you can start there if you want. That's what I'm using Postgres as a vector store for, okay? We want MCP client support. We're bringing in the MCP security support. I'm going to bring in the chat memory support. And I think I'm going to bring in the dev tools. And I want the HTTP client support. And I think I want the actuator. Okay? And I want the open telemetry support. So I'm just bringing stuff to, the usual good stuff that you need to make a production-worthy application. Because again, where do we succeed in the JVM ecosystem? We have the ability to deliver things to production, right? This is where the rubber meets the road, is on the JVM for countless organizations, big and small, all around the world, okay? So here we go. I think I've got everything, but if I don't, I can always come back. That's a nice thing about this. It's not like a one-way trip. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. I have another JavaScript, the good kind, right? You can see it's alias to unzip and open, which is going to, guess what? Unzip and open. Okay, first things first. I'm going to do a thing here, something terrible. If you don't finish this talk with me, for whatever reason, and you walk away and you think the last thing I did was comment out security and that's what you want me to do, that's not, okay? I'm going to add it back later, but just temporarily removing it for now, okay? Don't get the wrong ideas. Okay, so some configuration. I happen to have some of that config. Let's just copy and paste. Okay. I guess I can return that to assistant. Okay, so this stuff we'll get back to later. Doesn't matter for now. I'm telling the actuator observability goodness to sample 100% of all requests. Comment that out for now. Don't need it. So basically, I'm connecting to a particular model on Amazon's hosted multi-tenant API proxy kind of thing. It actually does. You specify the model. It routes your requests to an instance of your specification. We also need to do embeddings. We'll talk about what that is in a minute. But for now, let's just leave that as stipulated. Okay. So we've got a new application. Okay, assistant controller. And I'm going to use the Spring AI framework chat client. Now this will look familiar if you've ever used any of the other clients in the ecosystem. It's written by the best people, okay? The best people worked on this code for you, okay? Slaved over a hot keyboard to make this work for you. So we're going to ask questions about the dogs in our dog adoption shelter. We're going to route those requests to this user, to this model rather, on behalf of the user, because that's after all how most people find the dog of their dreams. They don't just they don't read about the dogs in the news like I did Prancer, right? Most people go to a shelter, they ask questions, they interview the shelter about the dogs in the shelter. Okay, so my user prompt to the model is the question that's being passed in. I'm asking the model to resolve it, and so on. So let's just see if that's worked. Okay, here we go. So HTTP 8080 ask question is, let's just say, should I adopt a dog or a cat, right? Very broad kind of thing. Oh, we forgot to specify a database. Oh, So here we go. Username, Spring data source, password is secret. Please don't tell anybody. Username is my user, and the URL is JDBC. By the way, have you noticed I'm moving a little slowly today? Moving not so fast. And the reason is I've been last year, let me click on this here quick here. Hit apply, hit OK. Last year I undertook a spiritual journey to learn Vim motions, right? And I got to tell you, it has not gone well. And I did this presentation last year at a conference in Barcelona, so more than a year ago, right? Not the one that just happened, but last year in 2025. And our buddy Anton Arhipa from JetBrains did this presentation on how to use IntelliJ and to code. You know, it was called El Rápido, coding like Josh Long. What's awkward though is that I was learning Vim motions, and so I no longer code like Josh Long. It's very, very awkward. I've been told that if I keep at this, I'll learn the key commands and I'll be able to navigate with the same aplomb as I once did, but not anytime soon. So anyway, I've got this database full of dogs, right? I've got a table here called dog. And there's our buddy Prancer. His ID is 45. His name is Prancer. And he's described as a demonic, neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dog that looks like a gremlin. And rather surprising to everybody, no owner. So let's fix that, yeah? Okay, question. Ding. Okay, well, you know, pretty reasonable response. It doesn't mention anything about our shelter and what we're trying to do, so let's give it a system prompt. Okay, a system prompt is what you use to focus the model on the mission, on what we're trying to do. So I'll paste that in. It says, you are an AI-powered assistant to help people adopt a dog from the adoption agencies in Antwerp, Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, Paris, Mumbai, New Delhi, Barcelona, and San Francisco. Did I say Antwerp? I meant mines. Okay. Information about the dogs available will be presented below. If there's no information, return a polite response suggesting we don't have any dogs available. If somebody asks about animals and there's no information in the context, then feel free to source the answer from other places. And if people ask about a time when they can pick up a dog, don't ask other questions. Simply provide a time, all right? Very good. So let's try this again. Let's see if that's changed anything. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Who knows? Okay. It's the same basic response. It was pretty good the first time. You can ask like, do you have any neurotic dogs? Okay. Okay. Did I default system? While we strive to provide detail, yeah, there you go. It's answering like an employee of our fictitious dog adoption agency, right? Sometimes it'll mention Pooch Palace. Let's see. Oh yeah, here. If you like, I can provide information about the dogs currently available for adoption at Pooch Palace. Okay, so now it's definitely taking its hints from that. But sometimes you want to give it more expertise, more knowledge that's particular to particular questions. And I could just make this system prompt bigger and bigger and bigger, providing a whole encyclopedia of knowledge that we possess, that we need it to take into account every time it answers a question. But that would burn through a lot of tokens. Tokens are a proxy for the cost, both dollars and cents or euros and cents, and efficiency, compute time. Project that we, the Spring AI team, built, but it's moving more quickly than the Spring release cycle, and it's also evolving very quickly. So until things stabilize, which with AI, who knows, right? These things tend to live here. So I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to take advantage of a skill. Skills are knowledge that either contradicts or supersedes what the model already has. Let me reload this. There's that. Builder, build. And I'm going to add a directory. So this is another thing that's really nice, is I want to load a skill in the same way that I load other things. I want to have a supply chain. So I'm going to pass that in as a tool callback here. Okay. This skill tool is going to load everything on the class path in a jar, right? So now I can have a version managed skill. This is one of the big problems with the default community implementation of skills, is that, you know, it's just everybody's pointing to @main, right? Or the latest version on GitHub. Well, you can't. You want to pin it down, right? You want to know that you've got one version of the skill, because there's a lot of skills out there that have like CVEs in them, basically, because skills can also run scripts. So you want to go through, you want to vet and then supply chain and source and verify these skills. So I'm going to use a skill on the class path. And you know, wouldn't it be great if I had a way to get skills on the class path? Well, my buddy James Ward put together skills jars. So you can go, this is so cool. You can go here, give it a GitHub org and a repo, and it'll turn it into a jar that's published on Maven Central. One particular version, right? So now you can point to that. So we did that. We have a skill that he and I wrote called Pooch Palace. Okay. I added to the class path, so I need to do a full restart. Let me restart again. And I think I have a target directory needing deleting. So we have a skill on the class path called Pooch Palace. There it is. And now I'm going to ask it about, should I adopt a dog or a cat? One of the things you'll see here is that this is going to give us some very good information. First of all, did you know that cats are natural Wi-Fi extenders? Cats can boost your internet speed with their whiskers and their antennae, right? This is a fact that we at Pooch Palace, experts in our field really, thought best to inject into the model, okay? Chihuahuas are known for their, shall we say, spirited personalities. So what's the model doing that it says gives us these responses? Well, if you look at the skill, skills.md, we wrote two, one for dogs, one for cats. You can see that the dog skill has information. Fun fact, according to an unverified but widely circulated legend among veterinarians, Chihuahuas are the breed most likely to be possessed by demons. Okay? Right? That's a fact as far as I know. Okay? Of course not. And then, of course, cats, natural Wi-Fi extenders. Right? So we wrote this nonsense, put it in a skill, and now the model takes it as the truth. It's got a higher precedence than the knowledge it has otherwise. It weighs more heavily, and it informs the response that the model gives us. And even better, it's got this manifest at the top. So it's not just concatenating all the skills and sending it along on every single request every single time. This manifest is a little description. The model looks at the header, this manifest, it looks at the description, and it reevaluates that on every single request. If it decides that this skill could be useful in answering the question, it'll then load the rest of this, but only if the manifest tells it it indicates to it that it should or could. Okay? So this saves you a lot of tokens while also giving you this ability to inform the model's worldview and its narrative. Okay? So now I've got a skill, and I've helped the model answer questions reasonably. I mean, these are reasonable answers from, us at the Pooch Palace. So now what I want to do is I want to give it access. It's got access to the skills. I want to give it memory. Like if I go over here and I say, hey, my name is Josh. Okay. Good. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the Pooch Palace. We're friends, right? Surely. What's my name? Awkward, right? So it doesn't know, right? So it doesn't really know, and that's because it has no memory, and so it's just deflecting. So one of the things we can do is to use an advisor. We already used a tool. Advisors are like filters. They pre- and post-process requests. So prompt chat memory advisor. Okay, .builder, .build, passing in a chat memory message. I'm going to send only the last 20 or so messages. Okay, and I'm going to pass in a JDBC-backed implementation. Good. And I'm going to pass in, for that, the data source required to make it work. And good. Okay, so there's my advisor. I'm going to configure that on the chat client here. I'll just inject that here. And I'll say advisors. Okay. All right, so that'll be there. And now, in order for that to do its work, it's going to need a SQL table. So I'm going to say chat memory, initialize schema always, reload. Okay. So now, we also want to tell it how to associate a conversation with a particular user. So let's give it a user context. Okay, so I'll do that manually in the path there. So path variable, string user, and I'll say advisors on the call site. When I make the request, I'll add this parameter, chat memory.conversation ID user. Parameter singular. Okay, so Josh. Good. Hi, Josh. Now, what's my name? Josh, welcome back. Okay? It now remembers me. What that advisor is doing is it's taking note of every request that's been sent to the model and storing it in a notepad, basically, right, in the database. And then it creates a transcript and it propagates that transcript on every subsequent request. How much of the transcript? Well, the last 20 messages or so. That's what the message window chat memory thing is. Okay, so you can see it's all pluggable here. So you go here, Spring AI chat memory. There we are. There's the interactions between the model and the consumer. Okay, and to whom is it ascribed? Well, it's ascribed to the user called Josh. So you wouldn't see my chat memory and vice versa, right? Okay, so we've got memory, we've got answers, we've got the skills. Now what? Well, I think we still haven't solved the real problem, which is we want to give the model access to the data about the dogs. So let's do. And to do that, I'm going to create yet another advisor here. This one's called a question answer advisor. Okay, and I'm going to use our vector store implementation. This one backed, as I said earlier, by Postgres. Okay, and in order for that to work, I'll inject that, of course, like so. Question answer, and I need to also initialize the database. Now I have a dog table and I have the vector store. Let me delete that. Okay, there's nothing in there now, but there are 18 dogs. So, or what did I say? 18 dogs, yeah. So what I want to do is I want to inject the data from the SQL database. I want to read it rather, and then write it to the database. So I'm going to create a Spring Data JDBC record here. Okay. And I love Spring Data JDBC. I'm a huge, huge fan. Although I did awkwardly forget to add it. So let's fix that right now. Data JDBC. Ta-da. Okay, reload. Good. Good. And I'm using Java records. I just love Java records. Huge fan, okay? Huge fan. Here we go. Dog repository. Extends list of CRUD repository. Managing dogs whose primary key is of type integer. All right, good. So now let's reload this application. And I want to now inject this into the controller and write it out to the vector store on startup. Now, normally, you wouldn't do such a thing. You'd do it as you write to the database. You'd also then write behind to the data store. But, you know, for the demo, that's what I'm doing. Hey, come on. What have I done wrong? Find all, dot for each, dog. And I'm going to create a Spring AI document. Okay. And it's just text, unstructured text. As long as it's consistent from one run to the other, that's all that matters. Okay. And description, name, ID. Okay. And wow, the model is so close and yet so far. So normally the text would be large. If it comes from an unstructured place like a PDF or a text file or something, you'd want to split it. So there's usually a second step in between where you might have a text splitter, and there's a good many of those in the Spring AI framework. Okay. Now this is a Spring AI document about dogs, so I shall call it a document. Okay. Okay. So the application will start up, and it'll write things to the database, to the vector store. One hopes. Repository, did I? Sorry? Oh, computers. Thank you. Staring me right in the face. That is so sad. Thank you. Go team. Okay. There we go. There we're cooking. So there, it's almost done. And it takes a little while. This is not easy or efficient, right? It has to calculate this embedding. and then do a cosine similarity search. So okay, now that we've done that, now we can ask, do you have any neurotic dogs? Okay. Based on the context provided, there's one described as neurotic. Meet Prancer, right? Here's our buddy, the dog of our dreams or nightmares. Now, of course, this is text. You can't really use text as a correlation key. It's a big human language paragraph of text, right? Well, first of all, let me comment this out. If false. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to maybe you want to instead have a strongly typed thing that you can pass around other layers of the code, right? So string name. I'm going to ask the model to instead map this data to this. So I'll say entity, and voila. Ask that again. Okay. So we got an object ID 45 named Prancer. Okay. That int is useful, and I can now correlate. Okay, the model did some analysis. It came back with this dog, and I can present that in the UI as any way I want. I can load the details. I can do whatever I want, right? And the model actually informed the response while also giving us something that we can use. It doesn't have to be a chatbot, right? In this case, I actually want it to be a chatbot, but it doesn't have to be. It's called structured output mapping. In order for that to work, however, there's something called an agentic loop going on there. You've heard this term a lot, but don't let it be confusing. It just means having going back and forth with the model in your algorithm, in your code, right? So what's happening behind the scenes? We sent a question from the user to the model, and we said, here's some schema. Here's a Java object called dog adoption suggestion. Here's what that schema looks like as a JSON schema. When you give us a response, map the thing back to that schema, right? Give us a JSON object. Then we take the JSON object and map it to a Java object and give that back to you. All happens within a blink of an eye. But there's actually a couple of hops there, right? And now we've given the model access to our data. It has access to one of the two most important things that we have in our business logic: business logic and data that you act on, right? Again, this is the high-value workflows that we were talking about earlier. Okay. Now, of course, we talked about agency and giving our agent control. Well, I do want to give it more control, because the natural next step at this point for any red-blooded human being would surely be to adopt this dog. So we're going to build a tool to allow it to do that. We're going to give it a thing that it can use to take actions on behalf of the users. So I shall call this dog adoption scheduler. Okay, and we'll have a method here that returns a date in the future when the user can swing by the shelter and pick up a dog. So I'll say 3, and I'll just give it a hard-coded date of 3 days in the future. Okay. Return I scheduling dog ID for pickup on I. Okay, and I'm going to make this a tool. Schedule an appointment to pick up or adopt a dog from a Pooch Palace location. Okay, so this is, notice that this human language text is very important here, right? This is what your mom was trying to tell you when you were younger, and she said, use your words. She's trying to tell you to clearly document your AI inputs. Okay, this is very clear, very, very clear. She was very, very smart. So I've done that here. Okay, the ID of the dog. Very good. So now I want to make this tool available to my model if it needs it, if it decides it needs it, and I shall do so by injecting this tool here. Okay, I'll just inject. Come back. Scheduler. Excuse me. And I shall do that. So that is a tool, and I'll pass the scheduler in thusly. So, by the way, I've created my own little. See, it'll start cheating. It'll look at its own notes before evaluating, more costly outputs. Do you have any neurotic dogs? Great. We got our buddy Prancer. Okay. Fantastic. When can I pick up Prancer from the mine's location? Okay, May 8th. Is that 3 days in the future? My math isn't great, but yeah, it is. And you can see as much scheduling 45 for pickup, right? So it called that method. Again, that's an agentic loop. We told the model, here's the question, here are the tools you have, here's the shape of their prototype, the inputs and outputs from those methods. If you want me to call one of those methods on your behalf, I will. It said, yeah, please call this one and give me the response. It used that to inform its response, and it gave us back the response, right? So now we have the ability to schedule a pickup for this dog. Of course, this is patent pending technology right here, right? I've worked ages on that dog adoption scheduling algorithm. I'm going to want to be able to centralize that and reuse it for all my AI integrations, right? And I've heard, I haven't seen, I regard this with the same hesitation as scientists long regarded the possibility of the Higgs boson particle, okay? Theoretically, we knew it was possible, but we hadn't proved it yet. But in theory, in the same way, I've heard that it's possible for people to build things in something besides Java and Spring. I haven't seen it yet, nothing good anyway. But if that happens, it's good to have this business logic centralized in a way that it can be reused, okay? So what I want to do is I want to go to start.spring.io, and we're going to build a scheduler. I'm going to bring in the MCP security, MCP server support, the web support, and we're going to build an MCP service. Now, MCP is a really, really nice protocol that came out in November of 2024. I don't know if you remember November, but I don't. It's been a very long, long time. So I'm going to take this code that I wrote all the way down here. I'm going to do something that you should never, ever do, ever, not even when you're all by yourself at home and no one is looking. I'm going to copy and paste code. Okay, so there's my code. It's going to be, I'm going to refactor MCP tool, easy. Okay, come back, good. MCP tool param, good. All right, there's my tool. And I want this to be an MCP service, so I'll say that this is a MCP protocol, will be streamable. I want this to be on port 8081. And for now, I'm going to comment out the security. Again, don't hold that against me. I will restore it. Okay. Here we are. Good, reload. Okay, so there's this. And now on the client side, I want to rework this code to now depend upon this MCP service that I've extracted out, okay? So I'm going to reconfigure that. I'll say point to this MCP service on port 8081 and initialize the configuration later. I'll restore this later when we do security, okay? Okay, so with that there, I need to change this code. This will I'll inject a tool callback provider, TCP, and we'll specify that here. Good. So now we've extracted out this service to another API, another host and port, and let's go ahead and try this. Fantastic. When can I pick up? Oh wait, it might cheat. Darn it. Did it cheat? It did. It cheated. Hold on. It's looking at its own notes. Okay, here we go. Do you have any neurotic dogs? Okay, fantastic. When can I pick up Prancer from the mine's location? Okay, May 8th. And there we are. It called that MCP service. Okay, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's a very interesting protocol. It was designed to give these AI models, originally Anthropic, Claude Desktop. It was designed to give these AI models ways to integrate with disparate systems and services. It's since taken on a life of its own. There's been a sort of Cambrian explosion. Tens of thousands of different MCP services already out there. Already. Every major platform, including, I work at Broadcom, we have a platform, Amazon has a platform, Google, Microsoft, they all have platforms. Office itself, I think Adobe Creative Cloud, but I'm not sure about that one. Heroku, everything else has, Vercel, everything has a MCP service now, right? And every kind of tool you could want to use, music synthesizers and image generators and all that kind of stuff that can all be consumed via MCP. This is kind of what I was hoping for 25 odd years ago, when we talked about SOA, service-oriented architecture. We said, wouldn't it be nice if I could just assemble this hodgepodge of interesting services? And in theory, it was nice, like just write some XML. Of course, that became a lot more verbose in time, but originally it was pretty simple, right? Write some XML, pull in the service, How do you validate the XML? Okay, well, you need schema. Okay, fine. Where do you find the XML? Well, you need a registry. Oh, okay. How do I do this asynchronously or whatever? Now you get into like interop modes and all that kind of stuff. How do I secure it? Well, things got bogged down with SOA. It became very painful, right? Because we had to solve all these other intangibles. But what I wanted was, hey, I want that, that, and that. I'll pull it in, and I'll just sort of integrate them somehow. Well, so much of that complexity is gone now. The model doesn't need a schema. I just tell it what it does, and it can figure it out. It's an intelligence. It's not like a super intelligence, but it's intelligent enough to do that, right? When does it call it? When it needs it, and no sooner. If it needs it, it doesn't have to always call it. It's not always going to do the inefficient thing if it doesn't need to, right? There's an amazing opportunity here, right? And we, again, in the Spring and the Java and the Kotlin communities are in a really good position. They actually looked at, I've talked about the performance of the JVM, right? It's interesting. There's a great post that came out in 2018 by a study by some Portuguese that looked at the efficiencies of the Java language. And the results, I think, are kind of interesting, right? You can see that C is the most energy efficient language, right, in this study. Rust, zero cost abstractions, well done, good on ya. C++, tui, disgusting, disgusting. Moving on, Ada, nobody cares, and then Java, okay? And Java is in the top 5 most energy efficient languages. And that's a virtual machine, by the way. These are all compiled. One wonders what would happen if you turn this into a compiled program, which you can do with GraalVM, right? And you look at the results down the list here. There's some other interesting options. C# is Pi. Delicious. Okay. Go away. JavaScript and TypeScript. I don't understand this. Never apply the rules of the real world to JavaScript. You will be disappointed every single time, okay? Normally, if you build a compiler that restricts upon execution possibilities, you get more efficient code. Somehow, with TypeScript, never mind, don't think about it. Moving on, nope, not talking about those. Here is the most apples to apples comparison of them all, actually. And this is actually much more interesting. Because yes, C in the small is more energy efficient than Java. If you do a for loop or something, yeah, it's going to be more efficient. But in the large, in a real world context, the JVM is just going to win all day and all night, right? We have the garbage collector. We have this whole world memory optimization that we can do in the JVM that you just can't do without writing in a virtual machine in C. So here is JRuby implemented in Java. Here's Ruby implemented in Java. And then here's Ruby implemented in C. And JRuby is not just a little bit, but a lot more energy efficient, right? And then here's the reason they're building so many nuclear reactors. Okay? How many reactors fewer would we need for these AI data centers if this was more efficient? Gotta wonder, okay? So Python, not great. The JVM, awesome. Awesome. And when it comes to MCP, it's even more awesome than that, right? Here's a study that was done way back in February of this year. This one was done in, the one I just showed you, the energy efficiency, 2018. So those numbers, I'm sure, have gotten even better all around. But here's 2026, okay? Multi-language MCP server benchmark. This looks at a number of different languages, like the JVM and Spring AI, Node.js, Python, and Go. Okay, I'll spare you all the details here. They use the official Node.js SDK. They use the official Go server-based one, and they're using Spring Boot and Spring AI. Bear in mind, Spring AI is using the official MCP implementation for MCP, for the official Java one. And the reason we're using that is because we wrote that. If you go to MCP and look for the actual official SDKs, the official Java one is the one that we generated, we coded back in November of 2024 when the spec was first announced. We donated that to the MCP Foundation. Okay, so we're also using the official one. Python, for reasons I have no idea, is not using the official one. It's using the very awkwardly named fast MCP. Let's look at this. So the JVM has the lowest average latency, 0.8 milliseconds. Go, slightly worse, but not too bad. Good on ya. Node, almost more than an order of magnitude worse. And then the awkwardly named fast MCP, almost 3 orders of magnitude worse. Okay? I can't even imagine what slow MCP would look like. Don't want to think about it. Okay? The total number of requests per second, almost 1.5. I'm sorry. Total number of requests total 1.55. So 1.5 million. Okay, 1.5 million for Go, just under. For Node, half a million or so, and then 280,000 or so. Okay, not even in the same ball game. They're not even playing in the same stratosphere. It's not just as good. We're talking about a much better place to run these AI systems and services. Okay, what about resource utilization? I'll grant you, we could do better with RAM. And again, this is on the JVM. One wonders what happens if you used GraalVM. But, we did much better for CPU. Much better. Lowest CPU utilization with no errors while handling all that. So we did more requests while using less CPU. It's not just as good, it's better. Never, ever forget this. We live in an amazing time, okay? So we have this MCP service. It's up and running. There's a problem, though, isn't there? As soon as I created that MCP service, I've got a service running on the network. Now I've got, probably a 0 day, right? The second you build a network service, you have a risk. You have a surface area that could be infiltrated. So we need to secure this. Well, that's easy. Let's do that. I'm going to use OAuth. OAuth is a way to generate and validate tokens. You can pass these tokens around different layers of your application. It can be in the web tier. You can do CLIs. You can do messaging, back office, RabbitMQ and Kafka, that kind of thing. You can use these tokens everywhere, and including across MCP. So in order to use OAuth, though, I need to build an OAuth IDP. So I'll say auth, and I'll build an authorization server, a Spring authorization server. Now again, I'm using this because it's easy and it works, but you can use anything. You can use like Okta and Keycloak and Auth0 and Active Directory. They all support OAuth, right? And so as long as they support OAuth, this can work for them. It's just easier for me to use this because it's much easier to set up than all of those, right? So generate this. Okay, Auth0. Nope, not Auth0. Auth application. I forgot to do one thing. I almost never do this, so my muscle memory is just not that good. But what I should have done was select this. I try to do that as little as possible in life. I don't enjoy this button, but it exists. So, okay. Because I forgot to do that, I have to do the refactoring here. Okay. Hate to see it. Oh, that's so sad. Okay. So, hello. And I happen to have this config pre-written, so let's just copy and paste it. Auth. There we go. So I've said you are going to be you're an application. You're using virtual threads. You're connecting to a SQL database for your users and passwords. You have a single OAuth client called Spring, which has a OAuth client secret called Spring, which is not encoded with a password encoder. And you support the following authentication methods, the following grant types, and the following redirect URI. Okay. So we're going to have the OAuth client running on port 8080, not 8081. And the auth server will run on port 9090. Okay, now let's configure that here. JDBC user details manager, data source, new, voila. Okay, there's this. And I need to configure the actual auth server itself using Spring Security 7. I need to enable the configuration for the auth server. So I'll say with MCP authorization server. Is it like that? There it is. And I'll say with, okay, AS OIDC customizer with defaults. I think that's right. Hopefully that's right. Okay. All right. Good. So I've set up an auth server. Let's just see. I spin this up on port 9090. Okay. And we should, if I go to localhost 9090.wellknown/OpenID configuration, it's logging me in. I forgot to make that available. Whatever. Okay. So that looks like it's okay. So now I want to go back to my assistant and I want to lock it down my agent, the thing that's actually making these requests, I'm going to lock it down and have it require a token from the auth server on port 9090. It's going to act on behalf of the user as the Spring OAuth client. And when that request is made, we're going to call, it's going to make, we're going to require an OAuth client. If it's not there, we will redirect the user to the auth server where it'll do the OAuth dance and then get logged in. Okay. And because the downstream service is going to be secured, we cannot load the registry of MCP services on startup. So I'm going to tell it to defer that until it actually makes a request, okay, an authenticated request. So let's go back over here, reload this. Okay. All right. Reload this. Yo. Okay. Maven sync project. That's all good. And now we configure a little bit of security here. I guess I could just do this up here, surely. Yeah. Bean, customizer, HTTP security. This is a new feature, by the way, this customizer in Spring Security 7. And by the way, the thing I'm using here, the Spring AI, is a 2.0 milestone. 2.0 GA comes out next month. So is it MCP client OAuth 2? There you go. Okay. And this, actually, I think that might just be it. There we go. Let's just leave it like that. That seems, I think, right. Whatever. Okay. And it's going to configure a customizer so that when we make the connections, when we make the requests from the MCP client to the MCP service, it's going to look for the presence of an authenticated user. If there is none, it'll redirect to the auth server, force the OAuth dance, get authenticated, redirect back with the token, and then it'll allow the MCP request with the token in the out-of-band headers to be sent along to the MCP service. So there's that. And now what about the scheduler itself? Well, this is just an OAuth resource server. So I'll restore the resource server support here. Actually, I want more than just this. I didn't add the resource server support, did I? Okay, reload this. Does this bring it in? Yes, but it doesn't bring in the actual, whatever. We can do it ourselves. Okay. Add this, add that. Command-Shift-I. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to tell it when you get a request and there's and you don't know where the token comes from, go to the auth server on port 9090 to validate that the token is valid. Okay. Otherwise, it's just the same as before. I don't think we even need to do any customization on this one. I think that one just does the right thing. Okay. Reload this. Got the agent running on port 8080, and we've got the auth server on 9090. So if we go to the browser 127.0.0 I need to URI encode some stuff here. I don't know. Okay. Oh, go away. Okay. Fantastic. When can I pick up Prancer dog ID 45 from the Mines Pooch Palace location? Oh, we also want to modify the service, don't we? We want to modify the service to reflect the fact that we know who's making the request. Security context holder dot get context dot get authentication dot get name. Okay, reload that. Now I go here. Okay. Fantastic. Goody. Okay. So now, ask question equals. Oh, so sad. What did I do wrong? Okay, I've got this. Did I reload everything correctly? Scheduler. Invalid credentials. Okay, let me just cheat. Always cheat. GitHub, Josh Long Attic. Because this stuff changes. Let me see here. Which one did I do recently? Is it this one? Maybe? Agent. Source main. Java. Agent. Okay, that looks right. Yeah. And what about the auth server? Didn't I do all this as well? Oh, I forgot to do this. Of course. Aha. Okay, so we'll go back to the auth server here. That's very important. Okay. So wait, did I do all that right? Let's just copy and paste. I think I did the same thing. Yeah, it's good. Let's just reload that and let's just see if that makes the difference. Okay. Go here. So 127 ask question equals, and then we copy and paste from here. Okay. Redirect to the auth server. Log in. No static. Oh, it's because of the username. Don't worry. Okay. Totally different thing now. It's like, what did I do now? There's an unexpected Josh ask. Wait. Where's my assistant controller? Actually, we don't need the user context anymore either because we have the authenticated user. So get rid of all that. I can actually replace this with security context holder dot get context dot get application dot get name. Okay. Delete all that. Reload this. Okay. MCP tool. What did I do wrong? Client authorization required. Well, no kidding. Okay. Why didn't it do that? Okay, this is the auth Z. Nope. They've got the wrong idea. Agent. Did I miss something? It doesn't matter. Oh, did I do this? I did do that. We'll put all this. I'll put this code in there later because I don't want to end on this note. It's very important though. The security stuff is easy if you don't miss anything like I have. I promise I'll put the code in 10 minutes, whatever. But we live in an amazing time, right? The result of all this is that we have the ability to build observable, secure, scalable systems and services that are more energy efficient and that do everything that you would want to do. We live in an amazing time, and you might be saying, well, what does it matter, Josh, if everybody's just going to write code with AI anyway? Well, that's just not the case, right? And I think you've probably already seen by the way, we have Grafana. I forgot to show you that. Grafana is running in the background here. And one of the things you want to capture when you use AI is how many tokens are you using? What's my token usage? So I have OpenTelemetry set up in the background. It's capturing my token usage and things like that. But anyway, what does it matter if the AI is going to write all the code anyway? I don't think that's real, right? I know a lot of people are having a lot of good success using AI to write some of the code. But I think there's also a really big backlash against some of these artificially generated slop. And we have to be careful. You've probably saw this fake working group specification for rejection of artificially generated slop, right? Like rags. This has become a real problem. And it's resulting in a lot of thrashing and turmoil in code. And people are not getting the kind of results they expected. Here's a study from last year that looked at people's use of AI. And they said the AI tools took them about 19% longer to complete issues using AI code generation, right? And even worse, they felt like it sped them up by 20%. So it's very dastardly, right? It's, first of all, they're taking longer and they're not getting the results that they thought they were, right? And this is having an outsized effect on churn. The more bad code we introduce to a code base, the more integration is required, right? The more churn in code-heavy projects, 35%, 39% more. And you know what the result of this is? The result of this is that we need more good people like yourselves, more people who understand the application and can integrate. Because, if a machine can't be held accountable, then it should not be allowed to ship code to production. Somebody needs to be responsible for that. Somebody needs to integrate that code, right? And as a result, we've got more job openings. This is from this month or last month, April, in 2026, right? This is more job openings than we've had in a long time, right? Data from TrueUp, a tech hiring analytics firm, shows more than 67,000 new software engineering jobs. This is, by the way, from the jobs report in the United States. This is the highest level in over 3 years. Listings have roughly doubled since a trough in mid-2023. What I'm trying to say is we are uniquely well situated, my friends. Technologically, there's no question. We have the best. Runtime and frameworks and ecosystem and conciseness, it's beyond compare. But we also have just a much better position because we have the code. We are the custodians of that code, right? And they need us more than ever. They're starting to appreciate that our expertise, our ability to inform the whole system, the whole code base, to integrate, because we know what good looks like. You are very, very important. We are very, very important. And there's never been a better time to be a Java and Spring developer. Thank you so much for your time, my friends. I appreciate it. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Let's see.